Kneel.
Do you want me to...
Put your right hand in the box.
What's in here?
Pain. This is the gum jabbar. And...
Is that a type of sausage?
God damn it, Sam, he's ruining it.
Okay, so let's just go with the regular interview questions for now, and then we can move on to the other stuff later.
But I'm trying to do a whole Doom thing here.
Look, the pageantry is... But, the studio would just prefer that we proceed without all of the fanciful indulgences.
Fine.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. Did you find the place okay? Were the instructions clear enough?
One of us only tells the truth, and one of us only lies.
Yeah, and I fucked your mum, and he always lies.
Would the other one tell me that he fucked my mom? Yeah?
Alright, well, let's proceed with the questions then. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Nowhere.
He's perfect!
Congratulations, Mr. Earl. You are one of 2 finalists for this position.
Alright, when do I know if I got the job?
Well, it's between you and this other candidate right next to you.
Hi. Actually, I brought my own weapon.
Congratulations, you got the job.
Oh, good.
Hey, by the way, how did you find us? Did a friend refer you? Was it a Facebook ad?
Actually, I heard about you from Indeed.com.
Indeed.com?
Yes, everything you need for your employee finding.
It's great if you're a manager, too.
I just killed a man.
By the way, this isn't a paid position.
This isn't my first YouTube gig.
Oh, man, that would have been a good question to ask.
Greetings, corporeal and incorporeal beings alike, to the Doom Report. I am your increasingly exhausted and anxious host, Nicholas Don Smith. Our aim here at the Doom Report is to chronicle the continual global collapse assailing this planet, which exists within a universe where, it seems, reality is a Slayer album produced by The Onion. With our first 2 episodes, we explored the current and future impacts of a rapidly warming Arctic. Today, with the first part of our 2-part series, we will be pulling in a bit and examining the bevy of recent egregious actions of the Supreme Court of the United States, or SCOTUS, which sounds like the name of a Utah-based MLM company or an embarrassing rash. Before we delve into the river of cold diarrhea the Supreme Court has expelled all over our collective future, let us briefly detour and learn about the history, function, and current lineup of the highest court in the land. Through dark eldritch magics and Congress, the Judiciary Act of 1789 was summoned from the infernal plane and signed into law by President George Washington, establishing the Supreme Court. Now, per his bidding, Washington specified that the seats of the court would be filled by six. Sorry, metalhead tick. Filled by 6 justices whose souls would be bound to their calling until they retired or were summoned to the grave. Now, let's go over the function of SCOTUS. Still sounds like a medical robot shaped like a pair of testicles. By being the biggest, girthiest swinging gavel in the land, the Supreme Court is the top dog of the judicial branch of government. This means that they have preeminent jurisdiction over all the fat, juicy laws within the U.S., and have the task of analyzing the constitutionality of those laws. And when the SCOTUS signal shines over the night sky, the nine pile into the Justice Mobile and check the fuck out of the executive branch of the president and or the legislative branch of Congress. The current lineup of justices is as follows. With all of that out of the way, we can finally dig deep into the steaming turd casserole that has been the Supreme Court's rulings of 2022. While there's been a veritable cornucopia of disturbing rulings this year, let us begin with Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court overturned both Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey on June 24th. The court held that the Constitution of the United States does not bestow a right to abortion. Even before Politico released an early draft of the court's majority opinion to eradicate Roe v. Wade on May 3rd, many have known this was an eventuality for decades.
Yeah, no shit. Thanks, Democrats, for all those times you codified Roe like we asked you to. Oh, wait. Sorry, I got it out of my system.
13 states already had abortion trigger laws, essentially bans or near bans of the procedure, in place and ready to go as soon as the ruling was made official. Those states in alphabetical order are Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, our stupid home state, Utah, and Wyoming. There are only 11 states with abortion protections according to the interactive online map provided by the Guttmacher Institute, and they are Alaska, California, Colorado, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Vermont, with Oregon having the most robust of these protections. We are already seeing the impacts from this, according to a recent article from the aforementioned Guttmacher Institute's website. Quote, as of July 24, 30 days after the fall of Roe, 11 states, all in the South and Midwest, had either banned abortion completely, Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Texas, or implemented a ban on abortion starting at 6 weeks of pregnancy, Georgia, Ohio, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Prior to the Supreme Court decision on June 24th, these 11 states had a total of 71 clinics that provided abortion care. As of July 24th, there were only 28 clinics still offering abortions, all located in the 4 states with 6-week bans. Across these 11 states, the number of clinics offering abortions dropped by 43 in just 1 month, close quote. According to the Guttmacher Institute's research, as of July 24, the 7 states that imposed total abortion bans have shuttered every clinic. Here are the numbers. They go on to point out that in 2020, these 7 states performed 80,500 abortions for a monthly average of 6,700. And, not surprisingly, it's not much better in states that have enforced 6-week abortion bans. From the same article from the Guttmacher Institute, here's how the clinic numbers break down in those 4 states. And the quote from the article, while some abortion care is still available in these 4 states, one likely reason there are fewer clinics in Georgia and Tennessee now than prior to the Supreme Court decision is that many people are unable to get an abortion because of the drastically shortened window for access. Before 6 weeks of pregnancy, Many people are not even aware yet that they are pregnant. Even those who recognize their pregnancy right away are left with only a 2-week window at most to decide whether to seek and then schedule and obtain an abortion. They also go on to point out that other obstacles standing in the way of anyone seeking abortion care could encounter long wait times to obtain an appointment and losing precious days to mandatory waiting periods that could push some past the 6-week gestational limit in their state. All of these bans and restrictions leave millions of cis women, trans, intersex, and non-binary people with no in-state access to abortion care. And, as if they are playing the saddest 8-bit RPG, they are left with 3 options from the menu tree: traveling out of state, managing the abortion themselves, or carrying the pregnancy to term. Now, because we live in a world where everything terrible is happening faster than expected, it took no time for disturbing scenarios to start to play out. Most of us are aware of the story that broke out of Ohio in July regarding the 10-year-old rape survivor who had to travel to Indiana for an abortion. At the time, she was 6.5 weeks pregnant, and Ohio's fetal heartbeat, feels weird to put a joke here, but great metal band name, fetal heartbeat law was already in effect thanks to the Supreme Court and general Republican fuckery. The 10-year-old's doctor phoned Dr. Caitlin Bernard in Indiana, who agreed to perform the procedure, which was completed on June 30, just 6 days after the Supreme Court's ruling. But the madness does not end there. Thanks to the various abortion bans and restrictions, the GOP has created a confusing legal quagmire for healthcare providers and their patients, who are understandably concerned about legal repercussions. Anyone going through an ectopic pregnancy when the fetus develops outside of the uterus, usually in the fallopian tube, miscarriage complications, postpartum hemorrhaging, or any other serious and potentially life-threatening conditions in, on, or around pregnancy have a death sentence placed on them. A woman with a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy sought emergency care at the University of Michigan Hospital after a doctor in her home state worried that the presence of a fetal heartbeat meant treating her might run afoul of new restrictions on abortion. At one Kansas City, Missouri hospital, administrators temporarily required pharmacist approval before dispensing medications used to stop postpartum hemorrhages, because they can also be used for abortions. And in Wisconsin, a woman bled for more than 10 days from an incomplete miscarriage after emergency room staff would not remove the fetal tissue amid a confusing legal landscape that has roiled obstetric care. Fucking Christ. Ready for more damage to your sanity points? Awesome. The Dallas Morning News reported that a Texas woman with an ectopic pregnancy was refused treatment at a Central Texas hospital until it ruptured. And to be clear, ectopic pregnancies are never viable. Now, why was she refused treatment? Because at least 3 medical facilities in the one-star state, via guidance from the Texas Medical Association, have advised doctors that they should not treat anyone with certain uterusy, fetally type conditions because they could end up stumbling into the abortion ban. Reportedly, 2 other Texas hospitals are counseling doctors that if a patient's water breaks too soon during the pregnancy, just, send them on their way to hang out at home, crack open a cold one, and wait for the fetus to plop out on its own, because clearly the conservative lawmakers' only reference for childbirth are old episodes of National Geographic Explorer, where wildebeest stand around grazing, their spindly calf jetting out of them, before immediately walking around high-hooving the other babies. As a result of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, CNN reported that there has been a spike in the number of sterilization procedures being conducted for women, trans, and non-binary people, either in the form of tubal ligation, where they close or tie the tubes, or bilateral laparoscopic salpingectomy, where the fallopian tubes are completely removed. And if I fucked up the pronunciation of that, I'd like you to try and do it better. And you probably can. Several news outlets have also reported that vasectomies are on the rise too, for essentially the same reasons. Pregnancies and giving birth, even under ideal circumstances, can be dangerous, even deadly. This 2020 report from the Centers for Disease Control outlines their findings on the maternal mortality rates in the United States. So across the board, there were 861 deaths due to maternal causes in 2020 compared with 754 in 2019. Quote, the maternal mortality rate for 2020 was 23.8 deaths per 100,000 live births, compared with a rate of 20.1 in 2019, close quote. And for black women, even more so. From that same CDC report, quote, in 2020, the maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic black women was 55.3 deaths per 100,000 live births, 2.9 times the rate for non-Hispanic white women. Rates for non-Hispanic black women were significantly higher than rates for non-Hispanic white and Hispanic women. And Reuters put out this article on June 27th. In the article, they point out that more black women are living in states that have or will probably ban abortion, and those residing in southern states, the ones with the extra helping of restrictive laws, will shoulder the heaviest burden. Because of course they will. This country is propped up by the grim and relentless engine of capitalism that runs off of the fuel of racism. For instance, the article also states from the data collected by the CDC in 2019, black women are almost 4 times as likely to need abortion services than white women, and Latina women are 2 times as likely. These elevated rates of abortion among black women are traced back by health experts to, quote, disparities in healthcare access, including lack of health insurance and contraceptives in underserved communities, close quote. Even before this bullshit ban, the U.S. led other developed nations in the number of childbirth-related deaths, and black women are just over 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women. A study by Duke University Press revealed that a full abortion ban could increase the already high black maternal deaths by 33%, compared to an increase of 21% for the population overall. This also disproportionately impacts my fellow poors, because having a baby is expensive. Not keeping up with Motley Crue's cocaine tab in the 80s expensive, but pretty damn pricey. A new study by the Kaiser Family Foundation discovered that the typical cost of having a baby in the US is close to $19,000 under large insurance plans. And while those premium plans will cover most of it, out-of-pocket payments still run about $2,854. And that's just for a meat and potatoes vaginal birth with no frills, the kind your Depression-era grandparents had out in the barn while the Anderson sisters played on the old Edison. And those costs will quickly increase if there are any complications with the baby after birth that require extended hospital stays. And don't even get me started on those newfangled cesarean births, which totally sounds like a dish at a trendy bistro.
Yes, madam, and will you be having that cesarean a la mode?
Does that come with a soup scalpel or a salad scalpel?
Well, if you even have to ask.
Yeah, I do have to ask, actually, I do. So.
And raising children is costly too, as most boomer parents like to remind their kids anytime they get themselves into a spot of bother. From a 2020 report put out by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it is estimated that children born in 2015 will cost their parents $233,610 on average by the time that child reaches 17. A 17-year-old that'll cost Kip Winger more than just jail time. Hey, roasted! And then I go, finger guns roasted!
I'm not. Do you want to run that by me one more time? I'm not so sure I get the joke.
Kip Winger was the bass player frontman in the hair metal band Winger, all right? This is him and his two other brothers. And in the song, he's hooking up with a 17-year-old girl, which is illegal.
No, I think I get that part. I just think the reference is a little old. I'm not so sure people will get the, I think maybe there's an age gap.
Older people who will get it, right? Like Lily, you know who Winger is, right? On MTV.
No, she can't help you now. Nick, it's not going in the show.
You're not thinking about her. You're not thinking about her, right? Okay.
Hey, sit down.
No. Listen.
Nick, I think the studio
right
now.
Nick, nobody knows who that is. I told you in the writer's room. Christ!
For real? Winger, 17, their problematic song from 1988.
Again, no, dude.
This is hella lame.
Stop!
Seriously? What, should I start saying lit and fire?
God, I can literally see you aging before my very eyes. It's like watching low moving clouds.
Brian, get me a shovel! Thank you, Brian.
I'm so sorry, Nick.
You can talk to the Honda. And we're back. Well, things are certainly bleak. Let's examine what has been happening to try and course correct this decaying starship before it collides with the sun. Congressional Democrats showed off their shiny new Women's Health Protection Act to safeguard the right to abortion. The legislation passed in the Democrat-controlled House earlier in the year. Then, on February 28th, it utterly failed to clear the 60-vote threshold needed in the Senate to pass the filibuster and be brought to the floor for consideration. Undaunted, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tried bringing it to the floor in May, where it crashed and burned because he didn't have the vote. Predictably, the entire Republican caucus and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin voted against advancing the bill. With that failure on the Hill, how have state lawmakers, voters, organizations, and activists fared? No? So far, 16 states, plus little old District of Columbia, have already codified the right to an abortion. 12 of them, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, Rhode Island, and Washington, unequivocally allow the termination of a pregnancy prior to viability or when the pregnant person's health is at risk. The other 5, Colorado, D.C., New Jersey, Oregon, and Vermont, leveled up by protecting access without fuckery from the state throughout pregnancy. Back in January, in the Great Lakes state, through a campaign led by the ACLU of Michigan, Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan, and the nonprofit organization Michigan Voices, put forward to the public a proposal titled Reproductive Freedom for All. Now, this citizen-backed ballot proposal would give Michigan voters the chance to codify statewide protections on abortion rights and reproductive health care later this year. From CBS News, quote, "It calls for an amendment to the state constitution that would safeguard the right to choose to have an abortion, as well as rights to access and use contraception for both temporary and indefinite purposes. The proposal also aims to ensure that everyone who gives birth in Michigan has rights to proper care and shield people who have miscarriages, stillbirths, and abortions from facing criminal punishment," close quote. The petition received nearly 2 times the amount of signatures needed for a proposed measure to qualify. 753,759 of them, according to the ACLU. Hopefully they get a chance to low-key fuck shit up the way Kansas voters did on August 2nd. Is that up-to-date enough vernacular for you, Sam?
Huh? I wasn't listening. What did he say?
I don't know, something about vernacular or some shit.
He said vernacular?
Uh-huh.
Sus.
Very.
Vernacular is a fun word, though.
Hey, I'm right here in the room. Sodding kids. Anyway, they voted no, 59% to 41% victory, on a proposed state constitutional amendment that would have taken away the right to an abortion. In November, the voters of Kentucky will get to vote on a referendum similar to Kansas, and Montana bots. Anyway, in November, the Montana voting base will have the opportunity to decide if a fetus is a legal person.
Captain, we're being hailed. It's Jazz.
Excellent. Put her on screen.
She's not on screen.
Where is she?
I'm right here!
Nicholas!
So good to see you.
Oh, so good to see you. Oh.
Listen, I had to come in because I have something to say and I need to take over the desk.
Oh, absolutely. Be my guest.
Thank you. First, I would like to join Amber in solidarity and thank the Democrats for sitting on their balls for decades until it was too late to codify Roe v. Wade. Nice to know we're so low on your list of priorities. Kindly eat my whole ass. Second, fuck you, Republicans, using your conservative stacked court to overturn abortion rights and allow the states to decide wasn't enough for you, was it? Now you got Lindsey Graham out here slinging his federal nationwide 15-week abortion ban bill 3 months after he was on Fox News claiming that this is all up to the states. Now there's nothing in the Constitution that gives the federal government the right to regulate abortion. So much for states' rights, Lindsey? Y'all claim to be so worried and concerned about the life of unborn babies. You do everything wrong to actually bring down the numbers of medically safe abortions or even prevent unintended pregnancies. So let's start with the abortion rates in this country, where abortion is legal, versus countries where abortion is banned. Let me break down the highlights from this article from the Goats and Soda team at NPR. Scientists from the World Health Organization and the Guttmacher Institute recently published 2 decades worth of research to answer this question. Here's what they found. In countries where abortion is legal, give or take specific expectations, there are between 36 and 47 abortions performed annually per 1,000 women, ages 15 to 49. In countries where abortion is illegal, there are between 31 and 51 abortions annually per 1,000 women, ages 15 to 49. Not a whole lot of difference, is there? Why is that? The team of researchers found that in the same countries where abortion is broadly legal, the use of contraception is fairly high because these countries tend to be wealthier and have decent healthcare systems, except for the US on that last part, am I right? Unless you got the cash to afford some killer insurance. Anyway, I digress. So a kick-ass healthcare system that provides universal access to sexual reproductive healthcare equals a lower rate of unintended pregnancies, around 52 to 66 annually per 1,000 women ages 15 to 49. However, the percentage of those pregnancies ending in abortion is higher because it's accessible. 9 out of 10 of those are completed safely. On the flip side, countries where abortion is outlawed or full of heavy restrictions, there isn't a whole lot of contraception being used or encouraged. So the rate of unintended pregnancies are higher, between 70 to 91 annually per 1,000 uterus possessing individuals, ages 15 to 49. The rate of safe legal abortions is low, as you can imagine. Because of that, in countries with strong abortion restrictions, only 1 out of 4 abortions happen safely. Bans don't work. It didn't work for alcohol in the 20s. And the war on drugs hasn't done a goddamn thing to curb access to narcotics. But it has brought us a lot of compelling television. Don't look at me like that. Ozarks is great. You saw nothing. Look at this helpful graph from the Guttmacher Institute. Interestingly enough, we can see that after Roe v. Wade, the abortion rate climbed for a few short years from 16.3 abortions per 1,000, reaching its peak of 29.3 in 1981. And then it's been a gradual decline, reaching a historic low in 2017. Now let's look at actual helpful approaches that would bring down the rate of unintended pregnancies and by extension, the abortion rate. Specifically comprehensive sex education and not the abstinence-only sex ed you leaned so hard into starting in the early 80s. Enforcing the idea that you can only nut after marriage when contraception was brought up, you only focused on failure rate. In this article from The Hill, they write, teen pregnancy rate hit their peak in 1991, recording about 61.8 births per 1,000 females. From this same article, they reference a study from the New York University that spanned 20 years from 1996 to 2016. It compared teen birth rates for counties all across the US that did and did not receive federal funding for sex education. They discovered that counties that received federal money for comprehensive sex education led to a 3% decrease in the rate of teen births in that 20-year span. In 2010, due to the soaring rate of teen pregnancies, the federal government initiated the Personal Responsibility Education Program, or PrEP, and the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program, or TTP. Teen pregnancy programs with a comprehensive sex education approach that went beyond the previous clunky-ass, abstinence-only, federal-funded garbage. The New York University researchers discovered that overall, in 55 U.S. counties that received TPP funding, teen pregnancy rates went down 1.5% in the first year of funding and fell again by around 7% by year 5 of funding. In this article from the Guttmacher Institute, it points out that there are more teen pregnancies and births in states that shill their abstinence-only snake oil. Those programs have no impact on pregnancy, HIV, or STI rates in adolescents. Teens that take a pledge to wait until marriage to have sex have the same sex rates of premarital sex, STIs, and anal and oral as their peers who gave the finger to an abstinence pledge. Teens fuck. Imagine that. For legal reasons, actually, don't do that. Okay, let's go ahead and make comprehensive sex education the standard and protect these kids with valuable knowledge and bring down the unintended pregnancies, STIs, and with it, maybe drop the abortion rate y'all are so anxious about. In short, CSE teaches them all about the nuances of consent, that handjobs are a thing. Mouths don't get you pregnant or get pregnant themselves. And it includes educational material for the LGBTQIA+ community, info for contraception, and that yes, abstinence is also valid and totally cool if you aren't ready for sexual activity, plus so much more. Act now. Operators are standing by.
Yeah? What's that? I'll check. Hey, Taylor, do we have anything called comprehensive sex ed?
No, but your dad does.
I hate you, Taylor. You stole my life.
And as Nicholas pointed out earlier, having a baby is expensive as hell in this country. And that cost is one of the big drivers for abortions. Not everyone is in a position to afford a child or another kid on top of the others that they already may be struggling to feed and clothe. Last year, Forbes explored the high rate of infant mortality in the US and brought up issues with Medicaid coverage, which is the biggest payer for maternity care in the US. Quote, each year, hundreds of thousands of mothers are kicked off of Medicaid 2 months after giving birth. States have the option to extend postpartum Medicaid eligibility so mothers who have given birth can stay insured for a full year after. But most mothers lose coverage after 6 weeks because states fail to exercise the option of extending coverage. End quote. That's fucked up. Don't let states do that. In fact, let's go with universal healthcare for all. Let's not bankrupt folks just because they had a kid. Let's also cut down on the financial strain by making sure food for babies is free. Hey, diapers too. Huggies ain't cheap. We all know the babies produce an alarming amount of poop for something so small. And not only will that eliminate some of the abortions out there you lose so much sleep over, it will help out all the kids outside of the womb too. But let's cut the shit. We all know this isn't about states' rights or protecting precious fetuses. Your party cynically courted the Christian right and wrapped yourselves in the mantle of God so you could market yourselves as crusaders for righteousness. Your golden boy Ronald Reagan greatly expanded abortion access in 1967 in California when he was governor, to only make a back-breaking 180 on his abortion stance when he ran for president in 1980, making it one of the most contentious issues in U.S. politics to this day. This is about power and control over the bodies of everyone with birthing capabilities. And to punish us for so-called sexual transgressions while making all of these little concessions and exceptions for the sperm donors and worse, our rapists. You have made this abundantly clear again and again and again, with Herschel Walker being one of the most recent examples. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you for letting me get that out of my system, Nicholas.
My pleasure, buddy.
All right, bye.
And now it's time for Greg Orum's Doom on Film.
Hi everybody, it's me, Greg Orm, again reviewing a movie for the Doom Report. This week, our movie is Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, from also 1999, starring Mike Myers and Heather Graham. Now this is a movie about a British man, but don't let that get in the way of you checking it out. What it is he lives in the present day, which for them was 1999, but I guess he sees where we're headed and decides he wants a little bit more time, so he travels back in time to the 60s, where we can all remain blissfully ignorant of the collapse that's imminent here today. I mean, he has some fun. It is a comedy, but it is really sad when you realize that the reason he's going back in time is most likely so he has a few years left to enjoy himself before everything falls apart. There's also a little guy in it that looks like a big guy, and a Scottish person, but again, don't let the Scottish thing prevent you from watching this movie. It's pretty good. Alright, bye everybody.
Very insightful as always. Finally, let's go over what we can do to help aid the fight to restore abortion access and what resources are available to those who require an abortion in a post-Dobbs world. First, donations really do help. This article from marieclaire.com, which we have included a link to in the description notes, includes information and links to donate to 14 abortion rights organizations like Planned Parenthood, National Black Women's Reproductive Agenda, the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice, the Guttmacher Institute, the Abortion Care Network, American Civil Liberties Union, and several more. Many of these online resources also include information on your state's current abortion restrictions, where to access birth control, and abortion clinics throughout the U.S., where you can still legally obtain an abortion. And finally, we have a couple links that go in depth on how to protect your online privacy so that you minimize your digital footprint if you live in a state where abortion has been greatly restricted or banned, to ensure you or a loved one does not end up in jail or prison. They cover VPNs, safer browsers like Tor or DuckDuckGo that do not track your internet usage, and how to disable tracking features on your mobile device. Anyway, that's it for part 1 of our 2-part series on the Supreme Court. Join us next time for our examination of their other unsettling rulings of 2022, which I promise will be coming out a lot faster than episode 3. And if you would like to continue to support us, be sure to like and subscribe and share and follow us on Instagram at The Doom Report.
Oh, God forgive me. Oh, please erase that from your... Are you still... Fuck.